The history of English language. More people are trying to learn English than any other language in the world. English is the language of political negotiations and international business. It has become the international language of science and medicine. International treaties say passengers airplane pilots must speak English. English is the major foreign language taught in most schools in South Africa and Europe. School children in the Philippines and Japan begin learning English at an early age. English is the official language of more than 75 countries, including Britain, Canada, the United States, Australia, and South Africa. In countries where many different languages are spoken, English is often used as an official language to help people communicate. India is a good example. English is the common language in this country, where at least 24 languages are spoken by more than 1 million people. So, where did the English language come from? Why has it become so popular? So, to answer the question, we may travel back in the time about 5,000 years ago to an area north of the Black Seas in southeastern Europe. Experts say the people in that area spoke a language called Proto-Indo-European. That language is not longer spoken. Researchers do not really know what it sounded like yet. Proto-Indo-European is believed to be the ancestors of most European languages. These include the languages that became ancient Greek, ancient German, and ancient Latin. Latin disappeared as a spoken language, yet it left behind three great languages that become modern Spanish, French, and Italian. Ancient German became Dutch, Danish, German, Norwegian, Swedish, and one of the languages that developed into English. The English language is the result of the invasions of the island of Britain over many hundreds of years. The invaders lived along the northern coast of Europe. The first invasions were by a people called Angles about 1,500 years ago. The Angles were a German tribe who crossed the English Channel. Later, two more groups got to Britain. They were the Saxons and the Jutes. These groups found a people called the Celts, who had lived in Britain more than thousands of for many thousands of years. The Celts and the invaders fought. After a while, most of the Celts were killed or made slaves. Some escaped to live in the area that became Wales. Through the years, the Saxons, Angles, and the Jutes mixed their different languages. And the result is what they call Anglo-Saxons or Old English. Old English is extremely difficult to understand. Only a few experts can read the earlier form of English. Several written works have survived from the Old English period. Perhaps the most famous is called Beowulf. It is the oldest known English poem. Experts say it was written in Britain more than 1,000 years ago. The name of the person who wrote it is not known. However, it is the story of the great king who fought against monsters. He was a good king, well liked by his people. A new book by Seymour Heaney tells this ancient story in modern English. The next great invasions of Britain came from the far north beginning about 1,100 years ago. Fierce people called Vikings raided the coast areas of Britain. The Vikings came from Denmark, Norway, and other northern countries. They were looking to capture trade goods, enslave, and take away anything of value. In some areas, the Vikings became so powerful they built temporary bases. The temporary bases sometimes became permanent. Later, many Vikings stayed in Britain. Many English words used today came from these ancient Vikings. Words like sky, lake, school, axe, growl, lift, and take are from the old languages of the far northern countries. The next invasions of Britain took place more than 900 years ago in 1066. History experts call these invasions the Norman Conquest. William the Conqueror led it. The Normans were the French-speaking people from Normandy in the north of France. They became the new rulers of Britain. These new rulers spoken only French for several hundred years. It was the most important language in the world at the time. It was the language of educated people, but the common people of Britain still spoke Old English. Old English took many words from the Norman French. Some of these include damage, breakings, marriage. Most English words that describe law and government come from Norman French. Words such as jury, parliament, and justice. The French language used by the people Norman rulers greatly changed the way English used spoken by 800 years ago. English became what language experts call Middle English. As time passed, the ruling Normans no longer spoke true French. Their language had become the mix of French and Middle English. Middle English sounds like modern English, but is very difficult to understand now. Many written works from this by Geoffrey Chaucer, a poet who lived in London and died in 1400. Chaucer's most famous work is the Canterbury Tales, written more than 600 years ago. The history of English language, too. Last week, we told how this English language developed as a result of several invasions of Britain. The first involved three tribes called the Anglo, the Jutes, and the Saxons. A mix of their languages produced a language called Anglo-Saxons or Old English. It sounded very much like German. Only the few words remained from the Celts, who had lived in Britain. Two more invasions added word to Old English. The Viking of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden arrived in Britain more than 1,000 years ago. The next invasion took place in the year 166. French forces from Normandy were led by men known as William the Conqueror. The Normandy rulers added many words to English. The word parliament, jury, justice, and others that deal with law come from the Norman rulers. Over time, the different languages combined the result in what English experts call Middle English. While Middle English still sounds similar to German, it also began to sound like modern English. Here Warren Steers read the very beginning of Geoffrey Chaucer's great poem, The Canterbury Tales, as it were written in Middle English. Chaucer wrote that poem in late 1300. It had written in the language of the people. The rulers of Britain at the time still spoke the Norman French they brought with them in 1066. The kings of Britain did not speak the language of the people until the early 1400. Slowly, Norman French were used less and less until it disappeared. The English language was strongly influenced by an event that took place in 1400 years ago. In the year 597, the Roman Catholic Church began its attempt to make Christianity the religion of Britain. The language of the Catholic Church was Latin. Latin was not spoken as a language in many countries at the time, but it was still used by some people. Latin made it possible for judge members from Rome to speak to judge members from Britain. Educated people from different countries could communicate using Latin. Latin had a great effect on the English language. Here are the few examples. The Latin word discussed became several words in English including disk, dish, and desk. The Latin word quietus became the English word quiet. Some English names are plain, such as Gingle, and trees, such as the cedar, come from Latin. So do some medical words, such as cancer. English is a little like a living thing that's continued to grow. English began to grow more quickly when William Caxton returned to Britain in the year 1476. He had been in Holland and other areas in Europe where he had learned printing. He returned to Britain with the first printing press. The printing press made it possible for almost anyone to buy a book. It helped spread education and the English language. Slowly, during 1500 English became the modern language we would recognize. English speakers today would be able to communicate with English speakers in the last part of the 16th century. It was during this time period that great writer in English produced his work. His name was William Shakespeare. His plays continue to be printed, acted in the theaters, and seen in motion pictures about 400 years after his death. Experts say that Shakespeare's works were written to be performed on the stage, not to be read. Yet, very some of his work can produce word pictures and provide feeling of anger, fear, and laughter. Shakespeare's famous play, Romeo and Juliet, is so sad that people cry when they see the famous story. The story of the power-hungry King George III is another very popular play by Shakespeare. The development of the English language took a giant step just 9 years before the death of William Shakespeare. Three small British ships crossed the Atlantic Ocean in 1607. They landed in an area that would later become the Southern American state of Virginia. They began the fruit of several British colonies. The name of the first small colonies were Jamestown. In time, people in these new colonies began to call the areas of their new land by word, borrowed from the native people they found living there. For example, many of the great rivers in the United States are taken from American Indian words. The Mississippi, the Tennessee, and the Missouri are examples. Other Native American words included moccasins, the kind of shoes made of animal skins that Indians wore on their feet. The borrowing or adding of foreign words to English were a way of expanding the language. The name of 3 days a week are good examples of this. The people from Northern Europe honored 3 gods with a special day each week. The gods were Odin, Thor, and Freya. Odin Day became Wednesday in English. Thor Day became Thursday, and Freya Day became Friday. Britain had other colonies in Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, and India. The English language also became part of these colonies. These colonies are now independent, but English is still one of the languages spoken. And the English language grew as words from the native languages were added. For example, the word shampoo for shampoo for the hair came from India. Banana believed to be from Africa. Experts cannot explain many English words. For hundreds of years, a dog were called the hout. The word is still used but not as commonly as the word dog. Experts do not know where the word dog came from or when. English speakers just started using it. Other word organs are unknown include fine, bad, and big. English speakers also continue to invent new words by linking old words together. A good example is the word motel and hotel. Many years ago, someone linked them together into the word motel. A motel is a small hotel near the road where people traveling in car can stay for the night. Other words come from the first letter of name of group or devices. A device to find objects that cannot be seen is called radio detecting, and ranging became radar. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is usually called NATO. Experts say that English has more words that explain the same thing than any other language. For example, the word large, huge, fat, vast, massive, and enormous all mean something really big. People often ask how many words there are in the English language. Well, no one really knows that. The Oxford English Dictionary lists about 615,000 words. Yet, the many scientific words not in the dictionary could increase the number almost 1 million. And experts are never really sure how to count English words. For example, the word mouse. A mouse is a small creature from the rodent family, but mouse has another very different meaning. A mouse is also a handheld device used to help control the computer. If you are counting words, do you count mouse 2 times? In Visitor to the Voice of America, here people speaking more than 1,500 different languages. More podcaster at VOA come from countries where these languages are spoken. International organizations said that VOA would find it possible to operate without a second language all the people speak. The language that permits VOA to work is English. Is it not unusual to see someone from the Chinese survive talking to someone from the Arabic survive, both speaking English? English is becoming the common language of millions of people worldwide, helping speakers of many different languages communicate. Be your own investigative journalist. New in the age of information, we are now told that the age of the information economy has arrived. The idea is that intellectual work is becoming a more important source of wealth than manufacturing. There are already too many factories for the number of people who want to buy stuff, so the winner in the marketplace need to have a lead in terms of fashions or technologies to beat the competition. You can easily see this in Brussels at work and in important industries like car and clothing and computers, where big companies prefer to concentrate on promoting their brand and let subcontractors do less profitable, profitable work or manufacturing the products. But there's a problem with the informations at the organizing trade cycle in societies. It only counts if people pay attention to it. Together with inventors and designers, the information economies need public relations executive to make sure customers are getting the right message. So Faye was the increasing glam on our attention. Organizations in another spheres of life have to do more to get their shares of it too. So PR people may work for politicians, then they call them spin doctors, or they may work for actors, then they call them publicists or bloggers. A lot of our news is actually complete from press releases and report of events deliberately staged of journalists. Journalists spend their time not investigating but passing on the word of a spokesperson, publicist, or other processional propagandist. Quoting from Evelyn Waugh. The manipulations of news is most clearly visible in time of war. A BBC journalist speaking about the present war in Iraq compared his situations with that in the reporter in Scoop. While satirical novel on the breast. In the book, everyone was sure that the real story would happen somewhere else, but they weren't actually sure how to get there. Nowadays, journalists who arrive in the right place at the right time is a more granted, a word exclusive. Onward digital cameras and see like they can find their story on the spot, which is why the military control the movement of journalists even more globally. Don't believe everything you read in the papers. The bedrock in Scoop is about the new paper's owner, Lord Copper. The editor can never disagree with him. When he's right about something, they answer definitely, and when he's wrong, they say up to a point, Lord Copper. It seems reasonable to suppose that, in the real world, the opinion of such powerful titans still influence the journalist and editor who work for them. Infotainment In countries where the news is not officially controlled, is it likely to be provided by commercial organizations who depend on advertising. The news has to attract viewers and maintain its audience rating. I suspect that some story get airtime just because there happen to be exciting picture to show. In Britain, we have the tabloid newspaper with millions of people read simply for entertainment, without even expecting to get any important information from them. I think this is why politicians' speeches now they have to include a soundbite, despite the small segment that seem to give a powerful message. Very perceptively less room for historical background or statistic, which are harder to present at a sensational story. The arrival of CNN, the 24 hours all news channels, has not increased the amount of real life, real news reporting because the format of the channel is degraded so that people who want to get the headline will not have to wait long. It tends to concentrate on the main story and repeat it. Alternative reposter. There is an argument that with speeding access to the internet and cheap technology for recording sounds and images, we will all be able to find exactly the information we want. People around the world will be able to publish their own eyewitness account to compete with the established new gatherers on something like equal terms. Established new, I think this is true up to a point, but it will mean also that we will be subjected to a still greater amount of nonsense and lies. Any weblog may contain the scoop of the years or equally of fabricated story that you will never be able to check. Have you ever wished you were better informed? Maybe the time has come to do something about it. And I don't just mean changing your choice of TV channel or newspaper. In the world where many people want you to listen to their versions, you only have two choices: switch off altogether or start looking for sources you can trust. The investigative journalists of the future is everyone who wants to know the truth. Aeroplanes and global warming. Have you ever looked out of the window of the passenger plane from 30,000 feet at the vast expanses of empty ocean and uninhabited land, and wonder how people can have any major forage of the world on the earth? I have, but it's now becoming pretty clear that we are causing a great deal of damage to the natural environment. And the plans would result in comfort to destination around the globe, contribute to one of the biggest environmental problems that we face today, global warming. For those of us lucky enough to have money to spend and the free time to spend it in, there are a huge number of fascinating places to explore. The cost of air transport has decreased rapidly over the years. And for many people, especially in rich countries, it is now possible to fly around the world for little more than the contents of our weekly pay packet. Unfortunately, plants produce far more carbon dioxide, COA, than any other form of public transport, and COA is now known to be a greenhouse gas. A gas will drop the heat of the sun, causing the temperature of the earth to rise. Scientists predict that in the near future, the climate in Britain will resemble that of the Mediterranean, ironically a popular destination of Britain's holiday makers flying to off to seek the sun if global warming continues. We may also find that many tourist destinations, such as the Maldives, have disappeared under the water because of rising sea level. As usual, people in the developing world are having to deal with problems created mainly by those of developed countries. Pastries go a spokeswoman for the Europe Federations of Transport and Environment say that when people flying in an airplane for 1 hour is responsible to for the same greenhouse gas emissions as a typical Bangladeshi evil years. And every year yet an aircraft generate amount as much carbon dioxide as the entire African continent products. Um, when you are waiting impatiently in the crowded departure lot for the flight, or trying to find luggage which had gone astray, plane fears may seem unreasonably unreasonable unreasonably, but it's reality. We are not paying enough for air travel. Under polluter pay principle, where user pay for the bad effect they cause, the damage caused by planets is not being bad for aircraft fuel. is not taxed on international flights, and planets, unlike coal, are not expected for CO2 emission. Also, the Kyoto Agreement does not cover greenhouse gases produced by plants and leaving government to design for themselves who is responsible. So what can be done to solve the problem? Well, although aircraft alternative fuels such as hydrogen, it will be decayed before air travel is not damaging to the environment. Governments don't seem to be talking about the problem seriously. So it is up to individual travelers to do what they can to help. The most obvious way of dealing with the problem is to not travel by planes at all. Environmental groups like Friends of the Earth enco- encourage prices on flights at an all-time low and accident destination more popular than ever. It is hard to predict British tourists to Jew Blackpool instead of Bangkok. The scanners over Singapore, French of the Earth also advise using teleconferencing from the international business meeting, but more business people will still prefer to meet face to face. However, there is a way of offsetting the carbon dioxide we produce. Supposter include Coldplay and Pink Floyd offers a survey which can release the goody consensus and of air travelers. The Future Forest website flight and for a new fee with plans the number of plane which will absorb with the CO2. Another company, CO2.org, offers a similar survey but invests your money in energy saving projects such as involving affections light bulb to villagers in Maldives. Yesterday, I returned to Japan from Germany and was very happy to pay Future Forward £25 to plant three trees would balance my shares of the CO2 produced by my return flight. Now the only thing making me lose sleep is a jet lag. A word. The novel are the originals, of course. A fact novel, the man who invented deadly explosive decided to try and do something good with all the money he earned and gave prizes to people who made progress in literature, science, and economy, and perhaps most importantly, peace. Um, Not all awards are noble as the nobles. Um, Even though most countries were have a system for recognizing, honoring, and rewarding people who have done something good in their countries. There are now hundreds of awards and awards ceremony for all kind of things. The Oscars are probably for the most famous, a term for the mostly American film industry to tell itself how good is it, an annual opportunity for look our big fan to give each other a word to make tearful speeches. Well, at that, there are also the Golden Goal. Uh, Apparently, for the same thing, but it's not only film. Now there are also Grammy, Brit, and Mercury Rise, and the MTV and Q Award for music. In writing, a writer who wins the Booker's Prize can expect to see their difficult literary novel hit the bestseller list and compete with the Da Vinci Code for popularity. The Turner Prize and an award for a brightest contemporary actors. Each year it causes controversies by apparently giving lots of money to actors who do things like display their bad but annual in glass cases or this year build a garden sheet. A word don't only access for the art. There are now words for sport, personality of the year, for Europolar footballer of the year, and the word footballer of the years. This seems very strange. Sometimes, um, sorry, stuck, stuck. Um, um, this year build a word not only assists through the art, they are now word for sport, personality of the years, for European Polar of the years, and World Football of the Year. This seem very strange. Sometimes a word can be good to give recognition to people to deserve it, or to help people who don't make a lot of money carry on their work without worry about finances. But professional soccer players these days simply aren't short of cash. Many small towns and communities all over the world also have their own award ceremonies for local writer for artists or just for people who want graduate from high school or get a university degree. Even the British Council has its own award for innovations in English language teaching. Why have all these awards and ceremonies appeared recently? Shakespeare never won a prize, nor did Leonardo da Vinci or Adam Smith or Charles Dickens. It would be possible to say, however, it that in the past scientists and artists could win patronage from rich people. A king or a lord would give the artists or scientists money to help them paint their palaces or help them develop the new ways of making money. With the change in social system across the world, this no longer happens. A lot of scientific research is not either funded by the state or by private companies. Perhaps our ceremonies are just the more recent phase of this process. However, there is more to it than when a film wins an Oscar. Many more people will go and see it and buy the DVD or buy the DVD. When a writer wins the Nobel Prize, many people buy their books. And a group win the MTV Awards. The ceremony is seen by hundreds of thousands of people across the world. The result: the group sell a lot of more record. Most award ceremonies are now sponsored by big organizations or companies. This means that it is not only the persons who win the award who benefit, but also the sponsors. The MTV Award, for example, are great for publishing not only music but also MTV itself. On the survey, it seemed to be a win-win situation with everyone being happy. But let me ask you a question. How far do you think that publicity and marketing are winning here? And how much can you recognizant of arguments is taking place? Viking is America. We begin our story a little more than 1,000 years ago on the cold water of the Atlantic Ocean. A young man named Bjarni Harry Jovsens, the captain of the large boat. He is sailing from Norway to Greenland in the summer month of the year 987. He is carrying supplies to his father's farm in Greenland. His father is one of the island's first settlers. Bjarni concerned. He has never sailed to Greenland before. Friends have told him how to do it. He had followed their directions. However, he had spent too many days at sea fighting storms with fair wind, think work that has slowed his process. Peony is a good sailor, but he must be able to see the stars at night and the sun in the day to find his way across the ocean. He has seen neither now for some time. At last, the weather cleared. To the west, Peony sea land, he has been told to look for a huge mountain of ice Greenland. He sees the mountain, but not ice. He also sees forests and many tall trees near the water. He has been told that Greenland lacks trees. He is sure that he lost. Biani moved his boat slowly to the new land. He continued his trip for several days, but did not stop explore the land. He never sees any people or farms. At last, he turned to north and east. The wind blew strongly in the directions. After a long trip, he sees land again. This time, it seemed to be the place he had been seeking. He told the ship's crew they will land. The time they have reached Greenland, Bjarne had Jobson find his father almost immediately and give him supplies. The simple story is about the man who may have been the first European to see what would become North America. Researchers now believe the story is very possible. The story comes from a series of books called the Icelandic Sagas. The word saga means to say or to tell. The sagas are stories written between 7 to 900 years ago. Several hundred years after the event took place, information of the Icelandic sagas came from stories that people taught each other for centuries. The traveler, the travels of Bjarni Harry took place almost a few years after the Norwegian sailor named Eric the Red Fruit discovered Greenland. He was responsible for taking the first settler to Greenland from their colonies in Ireland. Later, Eric the Red Sun visited Bjarne has substance. He asked for silent directions to this land Bjarne has since but not explored. Bjarne told him the detail of his lab trip and the sailing directions. The sagas also say he bought Bjarne's ship to make the trip. This man named had Lev Erikson. Lev Erikson followed Bjarne have her Hobson's directions. Within a few days after leaving Greenland, he fought land. Lev and his crew left their boat to explore the land. Lev named the place Hollowland. Researchers today believe Lev Ericsson's and his crew have found and explored Baffin Island, west of Greenland. He did not find much of interest and quickly left. They sailed south and a few days later found an area covered with green trees. Again, they left their ship and explored. Lev named this place Mock Land. Researchers say this may have been along the coast of what is now Labrador. The island sagas Lev and his girl then sailed for about 2 days and saw more land. They stopped again and this time built a very small temporary shelter to live in. The sagas say the river and the plains were full of huge fish. They say Lev and his crew also found crabs and the kind of fruit used to make the alcoholic drink wine. Lev Ericsson's name had the Wine Land or Vine Land. Lev Ericsson and his crew spent the winter in this new land. They built several houses using rock and earth at building Marito. The sagas say the winter passed quickly, Lev then decided to return to Greenland. His trip had been a success. Later, others would make the trip and use the small houses Lev and his crew had built. The sagas and Thorfinn constantly led the luggage group of 160 men and women in 3 ships. They stayed in Finland for 3 years. For many years, history experts had not proved that the island saga about Lev Ericsson's were true. They said no events existed to prove that any European explorer had ever stayed in North America. They said the old story about the explorer commonly know the Viking were interesting, but the experts say the first known European explorer were Christopher Columbus, who made the trip in 1492. Not everyone agreed. In 1660, Norwegian explorer Helge instead, and his wife Annie Steen instead decided to investigate the old story after carefully study. They decided the area visited by the old Norse explorers had to be in Canada, roughly in the island of Newfoundland near the coast of Labrador. They interstate went to Newfoundland to explore a new place called Allen's Oxmandel. They asked the people about any area that show invaded people living there long ago. They were told about some ancient Indian buildings. Their instead were taken to an area where the remains of several buildings could be seen. Um, could be seen. The buildings were covered with grass. The instead quickly decided American and Greek Indian did not build houses that way. Their houses were very similar to the kind of building used by Norse settlers in Greenland, Ireland, and Norway. After several years of research, the found evidence of a building left by the North explorer. Three, three are long houses, five are smaller storage buildings. Researchers at the Islands of Meadows area discovered more than 800 objects left behind by the people who built the houses. These include stone, oil lamp, pieces of iron, needles, iron bolts, nails, and other objects used by old Norse explorer. Scientific tests of word objects showed the word were from the year 1000, about the same time that Lab Ericsson's reached the area. These invaders now strongly suggest the North explorers did reach North America long before Columbus. Experts now believe that Islands of Middle was not a permanent settlement. It was used by several groups that came from Greenland, but more people never stayed for very long. Experts, the experts say the people lived there for less than 10 years. They say it was used at a pace to explore this new country. Researchers say they will never really know how far the old North explorers sailed or in what directions. Um, The old Icelandic sagas may suggest why the Norse explorers did not build a permanent settlement. They suggest, say, the explorer trade with the American Indians. They changed clothes for animal skin made from of fur. They fought also fought with the Indians more than once. Experts say the Norse knew they did not have enough people to defend against the Indians. They may not have wanted to risk moving their families to this new land. There may have been another important reason the Norm experts did not go back to the area they discovered. By the year 1200, and they settlement in Greenland were having problem. The severe, the Earth had entered a period of severe cold weather that continued for several years. It were impossible to grow enough food. The medicinal institution had opened a show in Museum of Natural History in Washington about the North explorers is celebrate their arrival in North America 1,000 years ago. The show is called Viking, the North American Saga. It explained the travel of live actions. In the show are objects that were left in North America, by the explorers. There are weapons, clothing, jewelry, and a small copy of the kind of ship used by the explorer. Visitors can see pictures of L and Meadow in Newfoundland and a small copy the age building used by Lev Erikson, the other early explorers. There also is a museum store where you can buy copies of the old Icelandic sagas in English. As you read the ancient story, you are transported the water of the cold North Atlantic at a all long ship makes is north toward a new land.